Hello, and welcome to another episode of Thrive Like a Parent podcast. Today, I'm going to talk about something short and simple, if you will, and that is public meltdowns. And I'm talking about with your kids. And the reason I want to talk about this is because I don't think I've talked about this in a really long time, and it really matters. Like, it really matters. It matters for you as a parent. It matters for your child in terms of boundaries that are set. And it matters in terms of understanding what's happening within the nervous system during a meltdown in public. And therefore, if you understand what's happening, that way you can support your child through it. So, have you ever been in Target or a grocery store where your child, or the mall, or like some store where your child just all of a sudden wants the thing and just decides to lay all over the floor and hysterically cry and like screaming and kicking and tantruming, or your child does it at a birthday party or a social event and you're like mortified? Now, I'm going to give you a few different examples because there could be different things going on, especially at something like a birthday party. But when that happens, I am sure your cortisol level spikes through the roof. You immediately start sweating. You're like, get me the fuck out of here. You either give in and give your child whatever they want and buy it so that they'll stop, or you see all the lurking eyes around you and you're like, I'm the worst parent ever. They're like making an eye at you, like, get your kid in line, or like, your child's so poorly behaved. Like, there's so much that can happen when there's a meltdown in public. And the worst thing, the absolute worst thing we can do is give in. The absolute worst thing we can do is say, fine, here you can buy the candy bar. Fine, here you can, pick whatever for dinner, at the grocery, but just stop crying. Like, just stop. The people who are lurking and looking at you, they don't know, they don't know two things about your fucking life, like, look at them and be like, would you like to help me? Like, would you like to handle this? And I want you to listen to this podcast, hold your head high, and know I am doing what I should be doing. I am doing the right thing. And you can go shop on another aisle. I didn't ask for your eyeball opinion. I didn't look for your eyeball opinion. Like, go somewhere else. No, thank you. And I'll never see you again, Now, if it's at, let's say, a social gathering or a birthday party and your child's like completely melting down, that is the most mortifying thing, because then you're like, oh my God, all my friends think I'm a terrible parent. And like, they think that I can't control my child and my child's uncontrollable. And no, because you know what? Every child melts down. Every child has a tantrum. That does not mean you're a terrible parent. And that does not mean that you suck. It means that your child chose the wrong time to do it. But there's not, a button where we can say, ding, 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 you now are allowed to tantrum. Ding, 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 now you're not. It's like on a plane. It's like, oh God, please, please just sit on my lap. I mean, I haven't been in that position in years because my kids are older now, but like, just if you have like a lap child, it's like, just please make it through. And then, you've ever seen like the little bags that people pass around, and like, my child, here's a cookie, like, I homemade it. Bleh. All children have tantrums and meltdowns. It is part of life. And so if that, excuse me, but if that geriatric lady over there is going to judge you, like, go at it, lady, because you probably don't remember what it was like to be in our stage of life. Like stare away. It doesn't mean that I'm a bad parent. And you know what? When you're at a birthday party or with a social gathering of friends that and your child chooses to do this, all the more reason for you to continue on with the plan that I give you, because those people should be your loyal friends. And if they love you, they trust you, and they know you're a good parent, and they're not judging whatever you're doing. They're not judging your child's behavior, and they're not judging your behavior. And if you're finding yourself in social circles where you are absolutely so uncomfortable and everyone is staring at you, like, fuck them. Like, I'm, can you tell I'm being pretty blunt today? But like, those aren't your friends. Like, that, they're just not. Like, those people are the people who judge and look and think you should have it all together when really they probably don't as well. Like, they just don't. And as I'm saying this, like, can you imagine being like part of the royal family? Can you imagine when those kids were super young and you're like, oh boy, we're about to bring them in public. All these cameras are around us. What if they pick their nose? What if they melt down? What can you imagine? And I think that that's how sometimes we feel like we're on display. I think sometimes we feel like everyone is watching, everyone is judging, everyone is saying, oh, look, oh, because then it is so sad. But then what happens is we feel that our close friends or people or whoever it is, they will go back and they will utilize that to make themselves feel better. Like, oh, thank God I'm not the only one. Or like, oh God, they must not be doing great because they themselves aren't doing great. And so it fuels the fire. It's kind of like if you are in a social network or group where you don't feel that you can share if your partnership is struggling or not, because then you feel like they're going to go either A, tell someone else, or B, they're going to use it to their advantage to make themselves feel better. That's not the type of friendships you want to be in. You want to be in friendships and circles and surround yourself with people who will lift you up no matter what is going on in your life and be like, wow, yeah, like let's talk about this. Like, I hear you. We don't ever want someone to utilize that and fire and use it as fuel to be like, oh, thank God I feel better about myself. Okay, so that's the first rant and blunt conversation of the day. Now, what do you do when these things happen? Well, I kind of gave you a teaser earlier and I said, don't give in. Like, number one, first and foremost, don't give in. Why? Because your child knows that if they do it again, you're going to give in. Okay? Just trust me here. The brain is honestly like any other brain, child brain, adult brain. I mean, a dog brain, a monkey brain. Like if you hold a treat in front of a dog and you tell it to sit, it's going to sit. And you train it to pee outside and you train it to sit and you train it to shake and you train it to heel and like whatever it is, go lay down, like whatever it is, right? Can't jump on the bed. That is repetition. It is teaching the dog its boundaries. It's teaching it where the line is. And now I know you're like, you did not just compare my child to a damn dog. Well, I kind of did, because what parents don't realize is that teaching children boundaries and teaching children where that line is requires effort. And I know I've brought this up in one of my most recent podcasts, but I'm really honing in on this a lot recently because I think it is something that I've held back on for so long, and almost for fear of like people not believing in what I have to say, because it is actually quite different than what a lot of parent experts, if you will, are saying at the moment. And it's, gentle, loving, conscious parenting and no consequence parenting and like all these different things. But what ends up happening is then your child ends up running the show. And so if your child is melting down in the middle of a target, okay, and there's a difference between a meltdown and a tantrum, I'm going to have you do the same exact thing no matter what. Do not give in. If you cannot leave, like if you're like, I've already got my grocery cart full, just screw it. Like just keep going. Just put some earbuds in if you can't, like just let them at it, right? Get done what you need to get done for you, okay? If it's not that important, what I would do is leave. I'd just be like, you know what? Like, we're going to do this another time. And I would probably leave and I would just wait it out in the car and then go back in when they're done. Or I would just go back at a different time. And again, that might be wildly inconvenient. So you don't have to leave. Now, that goes for the same thing at a social event or a birthday party. Your child might be melting down because they're overstimulated at a birthday party, which brings me to another side conversation of, has your child ever looked at you at a party and said, Mommy, I'm ready to go? And you look at them and you're like, that is so rude. Like, they've invited us here. We're going to stay. They're letting you know that their threshold of socialization is up. They're letting you know that something is going on. Maybe they are just being bored and lazy and they want to go home. You have to learn that, right? And as they get older, it may be the latter. But in the beginning, when they're younger, that might be their threshold of why they're saying, I am ready to go home. So it's not rude. It's them letting you know, ding, 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 something's going on. Okay. Now, if they're melting down or tantruming at a party, what I would love for you to do is remove them from the situation. Pick them up, get them in a private room, or take them out in the front yard, or put them in the car, like do something. And I've told you this before, but I'm going to say it again. Less compliance equals less words. So don't go get in a car in a private room or a quiet spot and start talking your ear out. Just like wait until they're back online. It's just not worth it. Just wait. Just keep breathing. Like that's all you got to do is just breathe. More compliance means they're back online. So more compliance equals more words. Okay. Which means you can have the conversation with them at that point of like, hey, we're not going to get that toy today, but mom's got things I got to do. So like, we're going back in the store. We're going to finish, but you are not getting that toy. And that is it. Like that's done. So are you ready to go back in the store? Right. And if they cry again, just go get what you need to get and move on and move through it. But please do not give in, because they will know if they do that, that it is okay and that they will get their way if they push far enough. So let me give you a story of one of my clients who was asking me questions about this specific scenario. Their child is right around 7, and their child will not listen to them at all. And so we're working on that, like won't respect authority of mom or dad. And what they find particularly frustrating is when their child is running around at a restaurant and like the kid will literally look at them and they'll be like, I need you to sit down. And he'll smile and be like, nope, nope, nope. So we have tried to push getting mom and dad in the driver's seat, and rather than the child being in the driver's seat. And sometimes that equates to, if we give enough requests and we give a warning, it is time for a natural consequence, because that is how the brain learns. Just like when your child's melting down in Target and you don't get them the toy, their brain will know that is not the way I'm going to get a toy. Therefore, I will not do that again, because what's the point? Now, what happened was they told them, if you don't sit down, you're not going to get dessert. Now, some people say don't do reward systems surrounding dessert. That's just what they did this time. Don't judge them. This is the story. Okay. And then from that instance, the child started crying. And then the child clung to mom or dad. I don't remember which one they said, and was hysterical and so sad. I'm so sad. This isn't funny. Like just boo-hooing. And so I want you to think about this. That 7-year-old interrupted your entire meal by you having to say, please sit down, please sit down, please sit down, please sit down, please sit down. I'm not going to tell you again. I'm not going to tell you again. This is your warning. This is your warning. Okay, next time, sit down. Like, stop kicking me. Stop, stop, whatever it is, right? That has been a difficult meal for you. That has not been an enjoyable meal. You probably haven't even tasted your food. Then you've had it. And so you give them a natural consequence to show them the line, the boundary. And then your child cries, and then you have to console them. And then your child is taking up more of your time in terms of that meal. So maybe you're holding your child because your child's crying and you can't even eat your food. And you were hungry before all this started. Then what happens later is they say, so they go home and they do something and they say, well, you can have a sweet treat if you earn it back. Okay. So then, long story short, the child at the end of the day did get a sweet treat. There is nothing wrong with earning it back. Nothing wrong with earning it back. Nothing wrong at all. However, in order for the child to feel the burn, they're going to have to stick to it and be consistent, because now if you look at this whole story, what the child has learned is, I got to do what I wanted at dinner and they told me I wasn't going to get a sweet treat, but then I did get one later. So I'll get it. I'll get it next time. So F you. I'm going to keep running around the table. And so it was a really hard lesson that I had to work with these clients on of, we've got to follow through with what we say. We've got to follow through with exactly the plan of action. So I'm telling you this story because I want you to follow through even if you're in the middle of Target and your child is melting down because you told them no to buying the whatever wafer cookies for this week for snack, still follow through, because if you give in, that brain will learn, oh, okay, so like if I do that, got it. Like I'll be fine, right? It's like, I'm not going to let my puppy pee in the house and be like, oh, you're still cute. Here's a treat. I'm not going to give the dog a treat. The dog is only getting a treat when the dog pees outside, because I want that brain to recollect that that is where you get the treat, honey. Like, you don't get the treat when you pee inside. I'm not going to scream. I'm not going to reprimand. I'm not going to smack. I'm not going to shove the dog's nose in it. Like, I'm not going to do any of that. A, that's a lot of effort. And B, you don't need to do that to get your point across with your kids of like, well, you lost it. And then like just shove it in their face. Like, you don't need to do that. The burn is enough if you give them the natural consequence of, sorry, like we're just going to go sit in the car until you wait this out. And then, yep, I do have to go get my groceries done. So, yep, we are going to go back in. Or that looked like a really fun party, but it just seems like you're not ready. So you just let me know when you are and we'll go back in. I'll just sit here. Like, you just let me know when you're ready and just stay silent, right? You're not going to get in the car and scream at them, you embarrass me. Like that, they're not going to get it. They're not going to get it. And like I said, every child does this. And so maybe the friends are having the eyeballs and like, oh boy, as like your child's thrashing on top of your arm. But like, nope, they all do it. So honestly, when you walk back in, your friends should be like, wow, great job. Like, you handled that well. Like, how you feeling? How you doing? You need a hug? We should all be supportive of one another. The best way to parent your child is by holding them to the standards that you want for you in order to live your life. There's also a point at which I personally believe, as I've watched all the patterns of all my clients, as well as my own children, I believe that there is a time frame where certain things that children do, tantrum, meltdown in the middle of Target, run around the table at dinner, like things like that, tell you I hate you, things like that, just behaviors that maybe you don't particularly love. It is okay to start holding them accountable as they get older of like, no, like I know you understand when you tell me you hate me, like I know you understand what that means. So if you understand what that means and I don't want you to tell me that, then we're not going to say that anymore. And so I want to continue pushing you to help your children learn and rise and understand what is expected. I think in the first few years of life, the emotional intelligence piece is super important in honoring the emotions and supporting the emotions. And then we need to start moving into then the boundary aspect of life of, I am still here. I love you. We've got the foundation of nurture. We've got the foundation of emotions, but now we need to learn what boundaries are and what boundaries look like within life. And that is okay too. And so if you are struggling, if you're on the struggle bus and your child is 6 and up and still melting down the middle of Target, melting like all the time, I want you to really take a look at how you want your life to look and how do you get from A to B in terms of what can I do to get my life to where I want it? What can I do to teach my children and help raise my children and help them grow and learn and understand what is expected of them or what is being asked of them? How can I support my child into understanding that information? Because I sometimes think that we live in a world where we think our children will just get it, and unfortunately, we have to teach it. Unfortunately, it is effort. It requires work on our end. And I said this in the last podcast, it can be both. It can be emotions, it can be boundaries, it can be nurture, and it can be structure. Like it can be all of it at the same time. And so with that being said, I haven't talked about this in a really, really long time of public displays of melting down. And so I just wanted to give you this reminder of like, it is okay to stay the course, trust yourself, forget the eye lookers and be like, I know what I'm doing and I'm doing a pretty damn good job. and be on your way. So until next time, stay strong. You got this. XOXO, Dr. B.